everyone. Welcome back to SoulSpeak. I am always so glad to be here, as speaking is an outlet for me, a therapeutic outlet, much like how my writing is, and having deep conversations with meaningful people. They're all outlets, and I am grateful for podcasting, yes, but for SoulSpeak as a platform for me to be able to have this outlet. Today, I want to talk about why I hate being called strong. And this is likely going to be a rant. I don't know what direction this is going to go in, as I am fully and completely speaking from my heart, not from my head. I usually speak from my head, and I'm starting to notice the difference of when I speak in connection to my body, my emotions, my spirit, rather than just thinking about it. And I don't do that often. I don't do it consciously. It's just come out of the need for me to be safe and to be in control. That's why I usually speak from my head, as a person who's experienced deep trauma and complex trauma, which is trauma repeatedly. That's a form of safety for me, to be able to observe and adapt to the environment around me so that I can have my safety. So, yes, today I'm going to talk about from the heart why I hate being called strong. I first remember being called strong when I was about 19 years old. It was at a therapist's office. And just to let you know, going to therapy has been something important to me from the beginning, or early stages of my life, when it wasn't popular at all among those around me. I actually kept it secret, but I knew I needed help. So I had enrolled in this program. I don't remember the name of the program, but it was a program that allowed students who were studying psychology to be able to have patients, and the patients would pay at a scale. And I was 19 years old. I was working part-time. I think my fee was like $1. And I remember this therapist. It was an old dude, and it might have been at the assessment stage of me actually getting placed with a therapist. And he was maybe the head of the group. I remember him saying that I was strong, and the feeling that that brought up for me immediately was fear. I remember feeling fear intensely because, and I might have said as much to him, is the fear was because I did not know where the strength came from. So at any point, I felt that the strength could get away from me, could wane away. And then what would I be left with? So that is the first time I remember being called strong. And at the time and since, being strong has never felt like an actual compliment to me. It never gave me a boost. Being called strong always made me feel dismissed in accordance to the fear. I felt dismissed and just the thought that I did not need support. I would always be okay. And that is a narrative that's very tiring for me because as a child, I was sexually molested. I grew up in a family that was verbally abusive, spiritually abusive to me. I did not get protection, or the protection that I got was minimal. So I had no choice really to protect myself in the best way I knew how, because those around me either did not want to or were mal-equipped to do so. So from a very young age, I have been forced to protect myself and not and expect not receiving protection. So being in that type of state, I'm forced to survive. It's not strength, it's the lack of choice, is how I look at it. So being put into situations where I had to sink or swim, I believe that our spirits fight to live. It's not overall natural for a human being to give up on life, to give up life. Most individuals, this is my opinion now, most individuals who are going through difficulties do not choose suicide. Suicide is not an overwhelming number. We don't have more people committing suicide than are alive. Our natural inclination is to survive, to live. So, yes, it's not odd and it's not a call for reward that I feel I have no choice other than to do the best with the situation that I have. And it doesn't also mean that I'm handling it in a healthy way. It means that I am handling it in the only way that I know how. And that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm strong. So, yes, I feel being called strong is dismissive because it's making all sorts of assumptions without really digging deeply as to understanding what's actually going on in someone's life, right? So, I am strong, having been abused, yes. I also chose men who weren't completely dependable. I chose emotionally absent men. I chose relationships that I became codependent in. I developed an eating disorder. I accepted crumbs from people at one time because I was desperate to have any type of relationship. That to me doesn't sound strong. When I hear those things, I don't hear strength. I hear desperation. I hear wanting to survive and be happy and not knowing how. I don't hear strength. I hear barely making it by. And I'm reading this book called, because I'm looking for it right now, Spirit and Trauma, a Theology of Remaining. And the concept within this book is that overall, we as a human race tend not to look deeply into trauma nor examine it, we often overlook it. And we do that by saying, oh, yes, we did go through this difficulty, but now let's look past it. Now let's rebuild. Now let's forget about it. And there is a concept that's spoken about in the book of being in between life and death, which is what trauma is. Once you experience trauma, life is no longer like it was before. So you're not living in your previous life, and you're not quite in a life of joy. So there is a space of remaining that is trauma, that we as a human race don't like to remain in, don't like to look at. It's a stage of, excuse me, purgatory that isn't comfortable. And what we as human beings like to do, and this is no shade to us, I've done it myself, but we like to make situations clean or livable or comfortable or without pain. And that's not how I've experienced life. Life for me has been pain overarching. So, what to do with the pain that comes into our lives? What I had learned in the past is to look past it. And that's not natural. And what I have done to look past my pain is use mechanisms to help me not feel the pain. And other than my initial abuse, I would say this is the next abusive thing that I did to my own self. And this is no shame onto me, because this is all I knew how. This is how I've seen society deal with it. This is how I'd seen my family deal with it. My family, I've never seen them actually deal with any emotion other than anger. And that was just volcanic and destroying of anything else that's to survive afterwards. That's how I've ever seen emotions handled in my family, and it was only anger. So I'm not angry at this point with myself at handling emotions in the only way that I knew how, which was to stuff them down. And that's not handling them at all. So, what has looked like strength, in other words, had been me caving within. And people tend to look at the outside only, all the time. So, yes, when I hear you are strong, I hear a dismissal of who I am inside, or who it is that you could be getting to know, but I'm being put within conditions and limitations. I'm already not being seen when I'm told I am strong. I don't have witness to my actual pain and suffering that not only am I going through now, but I've been going through all of my life. So where do I have the space to really be me? Because I'm being called strong, I'm also then being expected to be strong. And in that case, support is not readily available for me, which it hasn't been. overarchingly. I'm not saying that I've never received support. That would be untrue. But my experience has been the fact that I'm looked at as somebody strong has left people with, oh, Rachel will be okay. She's always okay. And so who do I have to lean on? Not many. Not many. So this has been a difficulty for me in my close relationships, in relationships with men, with relationships with my friends, because I feel like I've had to live up to an explanation. So it becomes a cycle. I'm being called strong. I'm being expected to be strong. I'm being expected to support others and also not asking for my own needs. It's not acceptable that I ask. It's not. And I find that a lot of people will say, well, if you need help, ask for help so that I am to blame. But if there's not an environment that's open to me asking for help, then how is it comfortable for me to ask for help? And this is not something just within me. I'm looking at it as the stereotype of a strong Black woman. How does a strong Black woman show her vulnerabilities and not be looked down at? As if I'm disappointing others by no longer perpetuating that stereotype of being strong. I've even heard it where shows are concerned, where we'll have like the show The Shy. I don't know how many of you watch it, but there's a character on there, Jada, who at this point has cancer, and I believe it's breast cancer. And I tend to watch reviews of shows that I like on YouTube. And I remember someone specifically saying that the fantasy of the strong Black woman was destroyed for them because they were expecting Jada to come out with some type of sunny disposition or a strength to encourage others around her. But she is the wounded person at this time. She has breast cancer. She was struggling with shaving her head, and you can see the internal struggle externally. These are images that are not normally shown of Black women. The Not the end result of what we do, but the actual struggle that we experience as we are going through the difficult situation, not the sunny disposition that you see once we've put ourselves together, because really, what choice do we have? Or honestly, we know that remaining down is not the answer, but there is a time where being down is the reprieve. I need my time of weakness. And not only do I need it, and I don't need it necessarily alone all the time, but where do I get the support to be a weak woman, a weak human, a weak Black woman? We are not always strong. No one is ever always strong. So where is the space? So no, I don't like being called strong. I like being seen as a whole human being. Yes, I have strength. Yes, I have a sunny disposition most of the time. I have positive qualities about me. That doesn't take away from me, though, nor from my weaknesses. I am also weak. I am not a strong person. I deal with situations with strength, and that's not all situations. I need to be allowed to collapse and expect support. Because honestly, that is what would help me or would have helped me in the past with not needing to cope on my own. I need to know that there is reprieve. And I believe that when a person is called strong, it takes away the responsibility of being a support for that human being. It's a double edged sword. It's a compliment that's not really a compliment because it doesn't do anything for that human being. It actually takes away responsibility for another human being, not only to witness that person's pain, but to support them in a way that they need. So, my challenge and my ask today is don't be so fast to call somebody a strong person. What exactly are our motives when we call people strong? Is it better for us to say, wow, I can see how that would be really difficult? And wow, is there any way that I can help you? Or thank you for sharing that with me. That was really vulnerable. Or what do you need in this time now? Do you need anything? I think it would be better to normalize showing a willingness to support. Because believe it or not, calling someone strong to me is not seeing who they are. And it's making a situation nice and neat for the person who's hearing it. Maybe it's giving that person a distance that they need not to feel the pain. You've done your job. You have said something that is positive, and your hoping is encouraging. So calling someone strong gets you off the hook. Going into the pain requires from you. It requires emotional energy and a host of other things, but it requires. And maybe that's what most people are trying to run from. Is what sharing a person's pain might require from us. And I'm not saying throw yourself in and feel all the pain and don't protect yourself, but don't immediately just protect yourself and create a space between you and that person. Because when I'm sharing something that's difficult, the last thing I want to hear is that I'm strong. My therapist knows it. She called me resilient before and has said she will never call me resilient again because it triggered the shit out of me. Because I'm working on being seen and being seen as a whole human being with my strengths and my weaknesses. Thank you for listening to this rant. I hope that y'all got something out of it. At the very least, you know not to call me strong. I have been Rachel. My Instagram is the Sassy Rachel. And I also have a SoulSpeak _ podcast page on Instagram. And I look forward to hearing and talking to you about your feedback. And thank you guys so much for being out there, for listening and exchanging energy with me. I look forward to talking to you again. Bye.